Hi, it's Brian again. I'm back for episode 3 of my little show here, Lists from My Living Room. Hopefully, maybe you watched the first two. It's not a huge number yet, it's a work in progress. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. If no one's watching, I'll stop doing them, and I don't blame people for not wanting to watch this face, but I'm going to keep plugging away at it for a little bit. We're currently still in this pandemic that's going on a couple of months now, and just trying to keep doing what we can do. Hopefully, everybody's still safe out there and everything's going well. Um, my cat Cooper, the big orange monster, I'm sure he'll be making an appearance in one way, shape, or form during this. He always does. Sorry, I got a little bit of an itch on my nose there. Um, but let's get to the show. So, episode 3, today we're going to be doing the Doors. I should explain, I got the jersey on. Right about now, obviously the Flyers would be dominating the NHL playoffs, but those have been derailed by what's going on in the world. Hopefully the NHL comes back soon and the Flyers can dismantle every team on their way to a sure Stanley Cup. So, the Doors, a band that kind of enjoyed a revival in the late 70s, early 80s. If you're my age, um, just seemed like everybody you knew had a Jim Morrison or Doors t-shirt and everybody was listening to it. But they had been around since 1967, putting out albums. So we're talking a big revival there. They're still staples of classic rock radio, and everybody knows the songs. I'll be reviewing 9 albums in this one, because they did have 9 albums officially as the Doors studio albums. So let's get started. All right, I got some notes here. I forgot I had the notes, so I want to grab them. So from 1972, coming in at number 9, I'm going to go with the album Full Circle. Now, I don't have a physical copy of this album. This was an album that was released after Jim Morrison's death. The 3 other Doors, Ray Manzarek, John Densmore, and Robbie Krieger, they continued on as a 3-piece, although they had studio, musicians with them. And on this one, Full Circle, they had like female backup singers on some songs. It's a little odd. The albums, I've seen these records in used record stores over the years, but the price of buying them has just been prohibitive. And they recently were re-released on Rhino Records, who do a lot of re-releases, and subsequently they wound up on platforms like iTunes and other streaming type services where you can download. So I've been able to get them that way. I have to say that I'm pretty glad I didn't spend the money to buy the vinyl, even though I'm a completist for the most part. The, Full Circle, it's just odd from the weird album jacket. The cover looks weird. The sound is kind of jazzy rock in a lot of places. Like I said, there were these background singers, female background singers, that really just don't sound right. Jim's not there. The vocals being handled mostly by Ray Manzarek, and well, pretty much all Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger, who are doing the vocals. it's just not all that interesting. There's a cover of Good Rockin' Tonight. Um, One thing about the album, it did produce the band's final charting song called Mosquito. Just a It starts off with this silly little kind of ditty and then goes into a long musical interlude, like a almost sounds like an improvisational thing, like a jamming session. There's a couple of songs that aren't bad. Piano Bird was all right, and the Peking King and the New York Queen, that one's pretty good also. But there's not a whole lot on this album that I would say really compares to any of the rest of their catalog. So it comes in last. Number 8 is going to be the other album that was done by the 3 remaining members. That's Other Voices. Again, I don't have a physical copy of this one. It's another one of those ones that you purchase on iTunes or whatever platform you might use. And it's much better than Full Circle, I'll say that. It was an album that came out after the death of Jim Morrison, but they had been working on the music for this before he died, and I guess the plan was that he would eventually return, and from, he was in France at the time he died, that he would come back and he would add his, lyrics and do the vocals. Of course, that never happened. Um, Vocals are pretty good. Ray Manzarek does a pretty good job on a lot of songs. He sounds a little like Mick Jagger on a couple of songs. He was always a pretty good singer. He used to fill in concerts when Jim Morrison wouldn't show up or he'd just be too out of it to perform. And because he was so erratic as a front man. And but there's good songs on this, not bad songs. Ship with Sails is good. I'm In the Eye of the Sun, Tightrope Ride. Those are all pretty good songs. I don't have a problem with those songs, but on the whole, it misses the voice of Jim Morrison. It misses kind of the spirit, and you realize as you're listening to it that it's not. Sorry, I just have to keep Cooper from knocking things over. It's just not the same, and it really shows. Anyhow, that was from 1971. So I'm going to include this one at number 7 because it is technically a studio album. It's not really a Doors album, but I'm going with An American Prayer. These are poems of Jim Morrison's that he recorded, and long after his death, this came out in 1978, so long after he had died. The rest of the band went in and added music to some of them. It's actually pretty interesting. The poetry is good, the music is pretty good, and it's not something you're going to play at a party. It's not something you're going to throw on, well, if you're sitting on your deck drinking beers or something, but it's something that I'll put on occasionally when I'm just in the mood for it. I put it there. I put it ahead of the other two just because it's got Jim Morrison's voice and poetry on it, so I gotta go with that there. So number 6, from 1969, and I don't have a copy of this on vinyl or CD. I have it on cassette. I've never purchased it in any other medium. I'm just trying to get the glare off a little bit there. Let's see. There you go. There's the cover. This was not their best album, but it's certainly a good album. It is very light compared to the other albums. It's not as rock and roll. It's a lot of string music and other music on there. Not just, guitars, keyboards, drums, and the bass, which Ray Manzarek played, like an electric bass keyboard. But it really only has one hit on it. That was "Touch Me," which pretty good song. Looking at the songs here, I'm trying to figure out what good. Wishful Sinful, I like. Tell the People sounds to me almost like a revival in a church type thing. The way that goes. And the Soft Parade, a long song that goes through a lot of changes. But I like the Soft Parade. Overall, though, the album, I think, was disappointing. Disappointing to fans. It was disappointing, I think, to the band even. I believe this was the last one that they did with Paul Rothchild as their producer. And I think it was because they weren't happy with the sound and the direction that the sound was going under his production. Yeah, so that was number 6. I'm just checking the numbers there. At number 5, we're going to go with, I debated these next two a little bit just because there's a lot of good stuff on both of them, and I just kind of went back and forth looking at the songs, trying to figure out which ones I liked best. When it came right down to it, I felt that this one was the next, and that's Waiting for the Sun. Again, the 4 members are on there. Most of their albums featured the 4 guys on the cover, and that's just, I think, a little trivia thing there, I guess. But this is a good album. Got some hits on it. Hello, I Love You was a big hit, and but there's songs on here that don't really get a huge amount of play on classic rock radio that are really good. Love Street, very nice little song. Not to Touch the Earth. I'm looking at side 2, 5 to 1, with that driving bump, 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 bump. Great song. We Could Be So Good Together, another really good song. Spanish Caravan, I don't really care too much about. There's songs on here, though, that are just kind of, excuse me, just kind of okay. But The Unknown Soldier, which ends side 1, really good song. And a song that they would perform on television at one point. It's a good album overall. It's one like another album that has really short songs on it. There aren't any real long epics like a lot of the albums had. So that one was number 5. So number four, and as I said, this one could have been interchanged with the other one, but I thought at the end I really enjoyed this one more. We're going to go with Strange Days, 1967. Great album cover. There's the reverse. And technically the band is on the cover because they're in that poster right there. So chalk up another one. You know, it's got Love Me Two Times, which is probably my favorite Doors song. It's up at the top of my favorite Doors songs. Strange Days, freaky kind of psychedelic sounding song. There's actually a video for that they made, and it's really wild. But People Are Strange, well, there's you know, a huge hit for them. But there's also good. My Eyes Have Seen You, I Can't See Your Face in My Mind, Horse Latitudes, which is sort of a kind of, it's not really a song so much as, and Moonlight Drive. Moonlight Drive, what a great song that is. It ends with the 11 some minute When the Music's Over. Really good song. Good version of it on their live album, Absolutely Live, as well. Can't go wrong with this. Just getting the glare off again. Good album. Great album. So from 1971, and I know that I have this. I'm positive I have this on compact disc and vinyl somewhere, and I don't know where they have gone. Can't really see it, but just kind of in this back area here that I'm circling, I have boxes that I still haven't unpacked after 2 years of living in this apartment. And it's probably in there. I looked through it a bit and I couldn't find either of them. But I do have it also on cassette. So there you go. LA Woman. A really great return to kind of blues rock after the Soft Parade album. I think that this album just has really only good songs on it. I mean, you've got LA Woman, which is among my favorite tunes as well. Love Her Madly, Been Down So Long. Then you get songs like The Wasp, you know, Texas Radio and the Big Beat. Riders on the Storm is on this, one of their, you know, best known songs. Still hear it all the time on classic rock radio. But weird stuff too, like L'America is good, and Cars Hiss by My Window. It's a little, Jim's voice is a little bit rough on this. I find it's more growly than previous albums. I don't know if that's because of alcohol abuse or other substance abuse or what, or if it was planned that way. But it really works. It works with the heavier blues rock on this album. I think it's just a classic album, and that's why I have it ranked so high at number 3. So down to the last two, and I didn't have to debate this too much. I will have to say that this is just one of the greatest albums in rock history. That is the debut, album, Doors, simply titled The Doors. Um, you know, a great album cover, and you know, the big picture. Somewhere, some marketing person realized, well, we got to put Jim front and center on the cover, and that way, you know, with his looks, they can get the female audience as well. So, but it's one of the greatest debut albums in rock history. And when I look at the songs, if you just list them side one and side two, really, it's Break On Through, Soul Kitchen, The Crystal Ship, 20th Century Fox is a like underrated song. And who doesn't love the Alabama song, otherwise known as the Whiskey Song? I mean, it was that song was even on an episode of WKRP, my favorite TV show of all time. Side one ends with "Light My Fire," probably their biggest hit. Probably is, yeah, I think it is. A song that you just hear endlessly on the radio still. A song that the band frankly got tired of playing early on because they'd go out to play a concert, and within the first few minutes of the show, people be yelling, "Light my fire," because people can't wait for the song. I mean, you know it's coming, just wait for it. Anyway, side two, "Backdoor Man," the Willie Dixon song. I Looked at You, "Take It As It Comes," really underrated song, and ends with the epic, um, 11 and a half minute "The End," song that would become infamous in concert. The Oedipal passages. Can't say enough about this. I'm sure anybody who's a Doors fan has it. Why wouldn't you? If you're a music fan, you would have it. So it brings me down to my favorite. And as I always like to say, I didn't say it at the top, but my list is going to be different from everybody else's, and what I think is the best, you might think is not. But I had no doubt in my mind when I was making this list where I was going to put this. Number one, Morrison Hotel. I wore this thing out when I was in my early teens. I played it all the time. I have memories of being at the cottage in Rideau Ferry one summer and just playing it over and over and over. You look at this list of songs. Roadhouse Blues, well, it doesn't get too much better than that. Waiting for the Sun, the song, which you kind of figure maybe this song would have wound up on the album title, Waiting for the Sun, but whatever. You Make Me Real, Peace Frog, which strangely has become a real staple on classic rock stations. If you listen to Sirius XM and the classic channels, you hear Peace Frog all the time. Blue Sunday, beautiful, I love that one. Ship of Fools, on side two, Land Ho, which is fun. The Spy, it's like, I'm a spy. Queen of the Highway, great song. Indian Summer, I like that kind of mellowness of that one. And ends with Maggie McGill, a real rocky song. Again, an album without any long songs, which the Doors were known for having longer songs. The longest one on this one is 4:24, Maggie McGill. And opens up, gatefold. Um, Classic album cover, like so many of them. The story behind this one was that they didn't. It was this was I think it was a hotel in L.A. But they never got permission to take this picture, and I guess they waited until nobody was waiting or around hanging around in there, and they all ran in and sat down in the window, and whoever it was who took the picture snapped it, and it became the album cover. I don't know if the people who own the Morrison Hotel ever sued, but today I bet you they would. They'd be looking to get paid, right? The back cover, it's the old Hard Rock Cafe, not like the Hard Rock cafes that we know, the chain, but just an old Hard Rock Cafe. So it comes in at number one. So that's it. Hopefully that list matches some people's out there. Hopefully, if you haven't, I can't imagine how you wouldn't. If you haven't heard some of the albums, you'll go out and listen to them, make up your own list. It's all pretty cool. The goal here for me is to do one of these maybe every 2 weeks. I know there are guys who are doing this who I watch their stuff and they're pumping them out like crazy. I just don't have that kind of output in me as far as making these. Um, we'll see. Maybe if more people start watching them, I'll start making them more often. Until then, though, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back in maybe a couple of weeks. And keep rocking. Thanks.